All right, parents, I know we're just past 11 o'clock, but we still have several people joining us, including some staff members. Um, and I will go over kind of the things that we're going to be, how we're going to run this hour-long session. We may or may not have one next week. It just depends if there's any new information. You'll hear me say this over and over again, and that is what is true today, or the things that we don't know today, may change even by the end of the day. So I wanted to make sure that you had the opportunity. We have to just mute everybody. That way, there we go. Anyway, if when we began our CDL and all of our communication remotely, one of the things that they had told administrators, specifically to our staff, but when you can't tell something in person, you can share it in an email, but then it's always best to then repeat it in person, because all of us read certain things in an email, we interpret them one way because we don't see a face on the other side of the words. And so the reason for today is not really, it's not to share any new information, but to get questions answered, but also the number one question that has been asked is, what is a day in hybrid looking like, so that I can make the best decision for my children. So Jim, has the waiting room slowed down?
It has a little bit, yeah. Well, we're still getting people in, but
Okay. So just a few guidelines for today. Number one, this is not the place to complain. You're welcome to complain if I have any power or rules to change things, and I will hear those of you who would have wanted things to be different. But I have no power. I do not have power in saying how the day will be. I do not have say in when we begin hybrid. I will not tell you which way to choose, which model to choose. I won't say you should choose this or you should choose that. I will not give you those answers, and my staff can only support you in sharing what the two models are like. And it really, if you feel like you have something to share, like have you thought about doing this instead? Feel free to reach out on the social media for the Beaverton School District. Feel free to email. You're welcome to email. Many people are emailing the superintendent or the assistant superintendents or the head of teaching and learning, depending on what your ideas are. But also know that on February 10th, the Beaverton School District is going to have a Q&A, and it's at 7. You'll be getting some information about this probably today, but it is not live. What they're going to do is they're going to choose 10 community members that have written in questions. I believe they've written in ahead of time some questions, and they'll give you a way to do that. And then they'll have 10 community members, including a student, asking questions to be answered on February 10th. So I think we'll begin. As you know, right now, all parents are being asked to choose one of two models. The first one is the one that we have been doing all year, and that is called CDL, Comprehensive Distance Learning. At Bonny Slope, CDL really is having children in the morning with a teacher and guiding them throughout the day, except for from 11 to 12, which is lunch. And I'm only going over this for some of you who are in our listening sessions but have chosen not to be in CDL. So I'll just quickly go over it. Lunch, and then they also have a half hour of specials, either PE or music. And our teachers are guiding our students throughout the whole day. And they have times where the teacher is on the other end of the screen, but the students are working independently, and then they come back to the screen for more direction. It's kind of a ebb and flow of teacher instruction, then some independent work, and then teacher instruction, and they turn their things in through school pace. I'm sorry, not school pace. Um, through what is the
Seesaw?
Seesaw? Thank you. School pace is by teachers. Through Seesaw. And if you are in pre-K through fourth grade, and then if you're in fifth grade, we use Canvas. All of that won't change. And so when we move to the hybrid model, the number one question is, will CDL change? Like, will it change any? Will we still have our community meeting in the morning? And the answer is yes. I mean, it won't change, but yes, you'll have your community meeting in the morning, and the schedule will not change. Um, and then the next immediate question is, but will my teacher change? So I'm going to explain to you why that could be a possibility. When the school district uh, made the decision, actually the state of Oregon, but that we would offer comprehensive distance learning to all parents for safety reasons for the entire year. We also knew that if and when we came back, because at the time we didn't know what the year was going to be like, we knew that there would have to be some kind of change because we only have so many teachers. So the teachers that are teaching, the number of teachers teaching the students in the Beaverton School District isn't going to change because we moved to hybrid. So when we have some teachers teaching CDL and some teachers teaching hybrid, that means that some of the teachers that are currently teaching CDL are going to have to change course and change the model and teach hybrid. And so we don't know who those teachers are. The teachers have no idea who they are. And so many parents have asked me over and over again, but the most important thing in my child's life right now is their teacher. They're connected to their teacher. They want to be with their teacher. And I and all of our teachers 100% understand that relationship, because at Bonny Slope, I feel like that is truly one of the biggest strengths of our teachers, is developing relationships with their students. And just as devastating as it is to our children, our teachers are also mourning the opportunity to complete the year with the students that they have started with. But the truth is, we will be opening up the school. Um, and so knowing that, and that was something that parents have been asking for. So that is going to happen. And the earliest date that that will happen is April 5th. And so is there a possibility of a change in teachers? Yes. In fact, it's likely. It is likely. And it's almost guaranteed that if the teachers don't change, the children in their classrooms will. So that is probably the hardest news for our parents to take. So I guess I think I just saw that somebody just enter into the conversation. I want to let you know that this is a two-way conversation, but I'm just going to do the bird's eye view of what hybrid and CDL are looking like. And then we're going to open up the conversation to questions. And there are different ways that you can ask a question. You can write it in the chat if you don't want to hear your voice, or if you want to ask and so that we can hear your voice, you are welcome to raise your hand. And if you click on participants, you should see a button and it'll say raise hand, and then it will let Jim and Renee know that you have a question. So we've talked a little bit about CDL. There really isn't going to be a change. One of the things you may know that held true at Bonny Slope is that our fourth grade team looked more alike than different. Our first grade team looks more alike than different. And it really has been to our benefit when we decide to, or when it comes time to move students to either CDL or hybrid. The students that are going from CDL one teacher to CDL the next teacher, they're not going to have a gigantic change as far as their schedule and what's being learned. It'll be all the same. Might be a little bit different. There might be a little bit of a different style, but pretty much it's going to be the same. So let's talk about hybrid. We have a pretty thick document of all of the things that we need to follow from the Oregon Health Authority, the Oregon Department of Education, and the CDC. And so we are working really hard to put all of those things in place so that should you choose to have your child come into the building, that they will be in the safest environment possible. So let's talk about their day. One of the things that will be a stark difference than maybe what has been in the past is that you will not be able to give a long goodbye to your child when they first come. Every grade has a different door that they must enter into. So first grade will have one door, second grade will have another door, third grade will have another door. They will be able to enter the building between 8:15 and 8:30, and it's to keep from any crowd gathering, and they will go straight to their room. The parents are going to have to be on time and prompt. If they arrive after 8:30, they're going to have to possibly walk all the way around to the front of the building and then ring the doorbell. And then we have to record which door they went in because it's not their typical door for contact tracing. And so we're going to have the parents ask if they're very prompt. And they will go straight into the classroom. Parents and the community will not be allowed in the building. There won't be volunteering. There will not be people entering the building unless it's staff and students. So the students will enter into the classroom. All of their supplies will be in a box with a lid, and they will put their things in their cubby and take out the box that only they will be touching, and they will go over to their desk. And their desk will be used by two people, but not at the same time. The desks are all marked off in 6x6 foot squares, and the students will be asked to stay in their 6 foot by 6 foot square for the rest of the time that they're in school. This time in school is 2 hours and 15 minutes. After the 2 hours and 15 minutes, your children will be leaving the building out of the same door that they came in. There won't be any recess. There will not be any interaction with the teacher beyond those 2 hours and 15 minutes. But if in an emergency or if they really have to go to the bathroom, they will one at a time be able to use the bathroom that's assigned to their grade level because of the cohort tracing. They have to use one bathroom, and there will be a record of this. But the students will also be washing their hands several times during that 2 hours and 15 minutes and take time to go wash their hands for safety precautions. During that time with their teacher, the students are at this time, and after talking to my staff, we've determined that we can't figure out another way except for to have students bring their devices to class. And they will have their devices in class because the teacher also needs to keep their distance from the students. And they are going to have to still have small reading groups so they know where the students are in reading. And so what's going to happen is the students that are in that small reading group, maybe everybody else is silently reading, they will open up their computer and they will have a small reading group with their teacher. They will also see, in some cases, some pushed out lessons like they're seeing in CDL. Books will be read probably up on the screen, because if you are on the fourth row in the back of the classroom, you are not going to be able to see the book. You know, if a teacher is holding up a book at the front of the room and you're in the very back and you can't come up to the teacher. So there are, I've been asked, is there going to be screen time? There will need to be screen time. And so the students are going to have to bring back and forth their devices. That's what we have figured out at this time. But if the school district is changing that, we will certainly let you know. And then the students will head on home. And to come to school and to go home, there is going to be the bus ride for some students. If you've had a bus ride in the past, you will have a bus ride if you choose to use the bus coming to school. They will try to make sure that families sit together on the bus, and that there's not a sharing of seats by a family member. And we will be following the guidance given to us for the return to school safely document. And so the bus drivers will make sure that the students arrive safely. When they do come into the building, we will be doing kind of a scan of the students, just looking for symptoms. Maybe if a student is coughing, or looks like they have a cold, those students won't be able to come into school until they are cleared. So there's a lot of documentation about how we will quarantine students. What happens if somebody has come down with COVID, or has COVID-like symptoms but hasn't been tested. And those are also in the return to school document that is made available to everyone. It's you if you Google return to school, you'll be able to find this document. But there's all kinds of scenarios that could happen that would cause your child to quarantine for 10 days, whether if they're exposed, or if they present some symptoms, or if a sibling or somebody in their household has symptoms, they will also be having to quarantine. And so the other question that's being asked of me is, well, if they're in quarantine, can they go back to CDL? And I do not have the answer to that question. So I cannot answer that question right now. I know that was a lot of information, and probably much of it you already knew, but do we have some questions, Jim?
We do. So you answered Dina's question a little bit, but can you about the start times for morning and afternoon for hybrid?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we do not have start times right now. We do not have start times and end times, just that it's 2 hours and 15 minutes. The district has not released that. A lot of it has to do with transportation.
The next question, how will the decision to choose the teachers that will move to hybrid or continue in CDL, how would that decision be made?
That's a really interesting question. They are in bargaining right now with the union, and I think they're developing a plan, but I'm not sure. I don't know how we're going to be choosing who will be teaching hybrid and who will be staying in CDL. The companion to that question that I'm being asked online is, well, if a teacher chooses to get a vaccine or not, will that determine if they are in the building or not? Absolutely no. We will not know who's been given a vaccine, and nor will we be asking. And so that is the educator's choice. And so parents will not know if their teacher has been vaccinated.
So the next question goes along with that. You say you don't have any idea what teachers will be in CDL and which will be in hybrid, but shouldn't you know at least one teacher, lowest on the seniority scale, volunteer, for each grade that will be teaching hybrid based on the assumption that at least one teacher for each grade will be doing hybrid?
Yeah.
Why aren't you able to share that information? At least one class per grade would have more information to help them make their decision if you shared that.
Right. It's not a matter of being lowest on the seniority scale whatsoever. And just so we're clear, it's not a step down to move to hybrid, or a step up to go to CDL or anything like that. And that's really not how we operate. most likely it'll be a combination of preference, skills, what they do best or what they would like to do. I mean, there's going to be a whole bunch of things, but it is not on seniority whatsoever.
And Ellie, I see your hand raised. I'm just going to do a couple more questions and we'll come to you if that's all right. Will the children that switch to hybrid have more asynchronous time over the course of a week than they currently experience in CDL?
Yes, foreseeably. The like even doing during our asynchronous time, the students have a teacher available. I mean, our teachers have just gone way beyond the call of duty. They're available if the student is in a breakout room or they're doing their seesaw lesson, they can reach out to the teacher because they have a question. That will not happen um, once they leave after the 2 hours and 15 minutes, they will not be able to connect with their teacher until the next day. And I should mention that hybrid is Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I don't know if I mentioned that, but it is 4 days a week. But yeah, the asynchronous time, the amount of time provided by the teacher is less.
All right, Ellie, I'm going to have you ask your question.
Thank you. Um, first of all, I just am super appreciative of you guys. I know this is super hard, and I've really appreciated your handling of it. Thank you. Two questions. One, if students stay in CDL, will their teachers change? Will it still be Bonnie Slope teachers, or is there a chance it'll be like another district teacher? That's my first question. Second, I'm wondering if because effectively it feels like if they do, once the switch happens, it'll almost feel like a whole nother school year transition. And I guess I'm requesting / asking if there'll be a chance to have some kind of like closure with their current class, because there's been so many changes. And I just,
Good question.
I know that it'd be great to have some kind of like ending of this phase into the next one.
Yes, in fact, last night we had a staff meeting and we were talking about that. We were saying there has to be some kind of oh, gesture to say our class as we know it will not be here any longer after April 5th. And so we will do something to introduce a new teacher, but also to say goodbye to our teacher or the students who will be going into a different model than that classroom teacher. Everything that can be done to keep the same teacher will be done, and keep the same school. But there is a possibility that students could be moved to another school. I'm really glad you asked that. There is that possibility because of staffing. We simply we don't know what the scenario is going to be, but there is that possibility, but just for the rest of the year.
And another chat question, it goes along with this, are you considering to keep as much as you can of the same classmates together?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Everything we can do to make sure that students are able to stay with their teacher. We're not going to move them just to move them.
The next question, will the older grades 3 through 5 stay with their current teacher up until they actually roll into hybrid, or will that change happen for everyone in April 5th?
That's a really good question.
That is.
And I believe that they will stay in CDL until we start move the grades to hybrid. That was the last thing I heard. But once again, for those of you who are brand new, please know that what I'm sharing today is my understanding of the information today. And if there's a huge change in anything that we've said today, we will certainly have another session, or we'll send it out in paw prints or an email to families. But this is what we know of today.
So Jenny wants to know what classes will be hosted live and hybrid versus what's happening in asynchronous.
Oh, what content will be?
Yeah, the content, yeah.
Reading, writing, and math. And so the students that are coming into school, foreseeably, they'll be going home independent, and they'll need to do their lessons. Some of their assignments they'll still have to hand in independently after they leave the school, along with social studies, science, PE, and music are other areas that they're going to have to. They will be solely on their own. They'll be pushed out by the teacher, but they'll be having to do that by themselves.
Do we know about Student Stop being available to families?
That's a really good question. Student Stop reached out to me last week, but we have not received any information as to whether or not they'll be at Bonnie Slope for the rest of the year.
Yeah, do you have any idea how you will determine which kids attend in the AM versus PM?
Yeah, it has to do with cohorts, and the cohorts were decided um, at the beginning of the year. It was like they called it the ABCD, I think, or an AB. I can't remember how they put it in parent view. They changed it a couple times, but or at least how we were saying it a couple times. They're going to have cohorts. Parents will not be able to determine whether their child is in the morning cohort or the afternoon cohort. Um, there is children that are of the same family at our school. They will always be in the same cohort. So when a mom goes and takes her kids to school, they aren't going to have to take one at one time and one at the other. But we do not know. They have not told us um, who's in what cohort. And a lot of it has to do with how families are choosing. And and by the way, just so you know, families can make changes to their decisions clear up to February 15th. So we really won't know the staffing until after February 15th.
Are the kids and teachers required to wear face coverings at all times?
Yes, they will. There are some through the American Disabilities Act where the child may not be able to have a mask for a reason, and so we will work with special ed for that. But yes, they will be wearing a mask at all times. And because we're not eating at school, um, and we're not eating on the bus, the masks will be staying on. The food, the children will be receiving bags of lunches for breakfast, lunch, and I believe dinner when they leave, and they will take it home to eat at home. But there will be no eating at school, so they don't have to take off their mask.
So the next question is from the BSD FAQ. It states that you will be bringing back third, fourth, and fifth grade, possibly one grade a week, after a smooth transition for younger grades, which starts at April 5th at the earliest. So by my calculations, my fifth grader won't likely start hybrid until May, which is only 1 month to the end of the school year. Did I estimate that correctly?
They said possibly one grade level. I mean, there's all kinds of scenarios that could change that. If I have to have split classes so that the students are in a classroom with two grade levels, then certainly we would bring on two grade levels at one time. Um, but we just don't know. We don't know if it's going to be in May or if it's going to be earlier in April. We don't know how long it's going to take children to recognize which door they're supposed to go through and not linger in the hallway and stay there 6 feet away. I mean, the children that are coming into the building are going to be asked to sit for 2 hours and 15 minutes, except for movement breaks in their square. And so, how that is handled, and the staff that are there to support students who are still learning how to stay in their safety bubble, that will play a big role in when we roll out the other grades.
So I think we answered this, but will AM and PM groups take sibling groups into consideration?
Yes, the siblings will be in the same cohort.
And how is the vaccination with the Bonnie Slope staff?
Yeah, I cannot answer who has had vaccinations and who has not.
I get that you're saying that teacher doing hybrid per grade won't be based on seniority, but then again, shouldn't you already know at least one teacher per grade that will be doing hybrid? And why aren't you sharing?
Yeah, I do not know. I do not know who is going to be in hybrid and who is not. Mostly it has to do with staffing. Um, and 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 there are scenarios that I'm sure that some have not thought about. But if we have a very small number in two grade levels, we could have a multi-grade level classroom. And certainly I can't even make those decisions until everybody has made their final decision on February 15th. So no, I do not know which teachers will be teaching what.
Is there a max class size for those students that are electing to remain in CDL?
That is a really good question.
That is a good question.
Uh, I have no idea. I have no.
Yeah.
I don't imagine that it's going to be a significant number greater than what it is right now.
For hybrid kids, what will they be doing on Wednesdays?
Well, they'll be home and they'll be doing the same thing they're doing Wednesdays when they're in CDL.
Which group of students may possibly change schools due to staffing?
Which group of students?
Yeah, may possibly change.
I think, are they saying would CDL, or is it both hybrid and CDL who could possibly go to another school?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes. It just depends on the numbers. Yes.
If I'm a volunteer that has been vaccinated, am I allowed to help teachers at school?
No, we cannot have community in the building. That's my understanding at this point.
So will reading, writing, and math in hybrid in the classroom, will all of those require the use of electronic devices?
Um, it's my understanding right now, and talking to the teachers, yes, they will still be turning in their assignments with Seesaw.
Will the hybrid option follow the flipped classroom model where the students complete most of their work in Seesaw on other days and times, but receive support for those assignments and application of skills in the classroom? Will all assignments still be submitted digitally?
They will all be submitted digitally. The support throughout the day, remember, the teacher is going to be quite a distance from students in the back of the room. They aren't going to be able to walk up to a student in the back of the room and support them. And so they'll give the best support they can. It might be on the computer, but I mean they're in person, but it will be they're going to teach the lessons, and then they will be on the computer supporting staff or supporting the students.
The next question is, would students in the hybrid model be working on both paper and their computers or only on the computers?
We have even in the CDL model, we have students who are working with paper, and then they take a picture and they upload it on Seesaw. Will there be a passing out of papers? No. Books will have to be put in the cubbies by teachers ahead of time. They need to sit for 24 hours before they can be used again. So there are a lot of protocols that we need to adhere to in order to have the hybrid model be safe. So the passing out of papers, like you might know of it, that's not going to be the case just because they're in hybrid.
So if there are some kids in CDL, could they end up at another school?
Yes, and hybrid as well.
And they talked a little bit about possibly that they'd be dual enrolled and then come back.
Mm-hmm.
Was that right? So
Yeah.
it's not like we're losing that student forever.
No.
What if we don't want the bagged food?
Then they wouldn't take it. Yeah, and by the way, like that's the case even in school now, is that you just because you qualify for free and reduced lunch, when you qualify for free and reduced lunch, there are a lot of benefits beyond a free lunch. And so many kids won't necessarily take the lunch, and more kids do, but also other kids take lunch. And I don't know if the opportunity to buy lunches will be available for those who are not on free and reduced lunch, but I would imagine that that would be the case. I just don't have the details right now.
Here's an interesting question. Can we pick hybrid for one sibling and CDL for another sibling?
Sure, absolutely. And again, I know that parents need to make these decisions, that whatever's best for their own children and their own learning. So, like, I am sure that there are some students who would do better with the 2 hours and 15 minutes than they would do all day CDL. But because CDL has not worked at all for them. And you know your children best. You know if they'll be able to sit at a table for 2 hours and 15 minutes and not be able to necessarily interact or move around as much, but we'll be able to see a teacher. That isn't a decision I will make for anyone. I know it's a tough decision, but if you have one child that's better with CDL and another one where they're just crashing and burning and you just feel like giving this hybrid model a chance, absolutely. This is a parent decision.
Are kids allowed to drink liquids and allowed to take off their masks for that?
I don't know that decision. So maybe I should know that. I honestly, they will not be using drinking fountains. I know that, but Renee, Jim, do you know the answer to that question? Okay, yeah,
Mm.
I just do not know the answer. I'm sorry.
What is the max class size for hybrid?
15.
How are they sanitizing between the AM and PM kids in the same classroom?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I know that there has been some talk having kids wipe down their desks because somebody else will be using it next, and then maybe having another staff member also wipe it down again. But that's that's as little as I know. There will be a lot more details as we get closer to April 5th, but I don't have that answer exactly. That's just what I've heard.
Right. Will the teachers be allowed to tell the class if they've been vaccinated?
No.
In hybrid, will there be a Zoom morning meeting on Wednesdays?
I am not, I have not been told that one way or the other.
Why can't teachers interact with students post-vaccine with masks on? Is that a safe return to school rule?
We will not know which teachers are having being vaccinated or not, but also we have teachers that, I mean, just because you're vaccinated doesn't mean you can't pass it on to your elderly parents that live with you, which we have, or children who are compromised as far as their immune system goes, or their spouses. There are so many reasons why we will be wearing masks and keeping our social distance. Part of it is contact tracing. When we quarantine a child or a staff member, there is a long list of questions from Washington County, and one of them is, did you keep your 6 feet distance? Were you in proximity for longer than 20 minutes? There's lots of questions to determine even exposure. So not knowing whether somebody's vaccinated or not, that's still, there's still the possibility of transmission. So we'll all be wearing our masks. I don't know, was that the question?
Yeah. I see Taylor Cash's hand up. Taylor.
Hey, Taylor.
Hi. Okay, so I somehow missed the memo that we could be switching schools if we stay in CDL. So can you tell us where to get more info, or how that would come into play?
That would be a last resort, but it is a possibility because of staffing. So
if high numbers choose CDL and you don't have the teacher load?
Right. We're not going to take one teacher to teach one student or 3 students. Does that make sense?
But if you have hybrid, you said the max class number for hybrid is 15. So kind of along the same lines, if you have lower numbers on hybrid, say you only have 10 kids in the class choose hybrid, are you going to be splitting them up 5 and 5? Are they all going to be morning? Has there been any discussion about how that works, or is it just strictly if you were already assigned A cohort, you're here, and B cohort, you're here?
Yeah.
Jim, you're laughing. Is that, I don't
No, what you're really asking about is the puzzle, and
yeah.
we can't. There's a lot of that we can't answer because we don't have the data yet from what you guys are deciding, and those realities will start to come through when we see the choices that are made. So that's why I'm laughing. It's this really weird Rubik's cube that we're trying to solve before we know where all the pieces even are.
Yeah. It's a tough one. It really is. And again, moving to another school will be the last resort, but we're not going to pull one teacher to teach 3 kids, kind of thing. So yeah, it's or maybe we will, and we'll be taking some kids from other schools. Like it really is a numbers game.
Okay.
And I think that that's probably what makes this so very difficult. Um, they have taken it out of the hands of everyone to say, they're not having you make a choice based on what the teacher is doing. And when I say we really don't know, we really do not know. The teachers have not given input and will not be giving input yet. The administration doesn't know how this is going to roll because we have to look at the numbers. And it's kind of like when I'm given our enrollment numbers and so many teachers, it's my job to put teachers in each of the grade levels. We just don't know what to expect. So they just want you to make the best choice for your child, and whether it's hybrid or CDL for now.
So we had another question about kids changing schools. I think we covered that. The next question is this hybrid approach from BSD consistent with other school districts that have opened up to offer a hybrid option?
Yeah, I have no idea. Like, I'll just be honest. I have no idea. I do know that we all took a stand. So you're like, students who go 5 full days with no interactions with a teacher is not conducive to learning. And so we're choosing the 2 half-day models. But you know, I don't know what other school districts are or how we're comparing. I really don't know. And I'm not sure they know, to be honest.
Will hybrid teachers have their own safety bubble zone so teachers won't go around the classrooms?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they will be keeping their distance as well. Their social distancing rules are the same as with kids.
If a family is flexible and willing to choose either option, if it means their child stays at Bonny Slope, can we indicate that when we make our selection?
I believe that's not one of the selections. The survey, Renee, you and I have seen the survey, but it's just 2 questions, right? Hybrid. Well, it's 1 question, and you get to click on hybrid or CDL. That's it. So the school isn't it isn't one of the options.
Let's see. Sorry to keep coming back to this, but will kids be doing any hands-on writing work in hybrid, or will it be all on the iPad?
You don't have to apologize. Sometimes we have to hear things like 6 times for it to sink in. This is a lot of
It
information,
is.
a ton of information. You know, in CDL, we have students writing on paper and they take a picture of what they've written and then they upload it into Seesaw. That's a possibility. But will they be having handouts passed out to them in hybrid? No, that's my understanding at this point. The way we hand in our work will be the way it is in CDL. It could change. That's just my understanding right now after talking with the teachers as we're just kind of brainstorming how's this going to work.
And you'll like this next question, Janet. Is there any planning being done for the fall?
Man, well, not that I'm aware of, but I'm just figuring all this will be a distant memory, don't you think? I, to be honest, no. There's been no planning. I think everybody's just trying to figure out when is life going to be back to normal, and nobody wants that more than our staff. I cannot wait to the big celebration of being able to come back and have a normal world again. But I have no idea when that's taking place. I'm sorry.
Do the teachers have a choice if they want to teach CDL or hybrid?
Teachers will have a preference, but they may not have their choice honored because of staffing. And just so you know, my staff has been very, very flexible. They are like, we'll do whatever it takes, whatever we need to do, we can do for 2.5 months. They will still be working as a team, whether they're in hybrid or CDL, because the lessons will be the same, but one will just be back to back without time to do the work. That's in the hybrid model, where CDL, they'll be having their teacher help them throughout the day.
If a student is required to change school due to their choice, can we change the choice at that point?
The district has been very, very clear. After you can change your choice anytime between now and February 15th. So one day hybrid, tomorrow you want CDL, you can change it to CDL, then you can change it back to hybrid. You can make those changes. After February 15th, you will not be able to make a change. That's what I've been told. That those are not my rules, but that is it. Like they're doing a hard line on that, and they've made sure that all of us were schooled in that very closely. Like that's it. Is February 15th.
So our next question is a scenario. What will happen to students who start in hybrid, but then have an at-risk exposure, i.e. their parents who have come in contact with COVID at work? Will they have a CDL option or will they just be out of school for 2 weeks?
I know they're to be in quarantine. They won't be coming in, but I do not know about any CDL version of the school made available to them. I don't know. I do not have that information.
Pre-K registration will be the same for fall?
Yes, and we haven't received any information about the pre-K registration, but it usually is in February, right, Renee?
Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I've heard it might be closer to the 1st of March just because teaching and learning is working through all of this hybrid CDL modifications. So,
but we're planning on having a preschool, the last we heard.
And I'm not going to say your name right. Amira?
Yeah,
have
that's
your
my
hand up?
daughter's name. Sorry.
Okay, no.
She sometimes uses my phone for Zoom. This is not a question. It's more like a comment. I think, my daughter would find it more difficult to not have the same teacher, whether distant or hybrid, than anything else. I think she's just a comment. And I know you guys are working very hard, and I'm very appreciative of everything you guys are doing. So, thank you.
Thank you for that.
We agree. The hardest part about all of this in bringing kids to school is the loss of that relationship, with the possible loss of that relationship with the classroom teacher. And you'd be hard pressed to find somebody saying that's no big deal, because it's the biggest deal for us.
If April 5th is as soon as this change may happen, is it possible we won't even have to move forward with this plan before the end of the year?
Okay,
So so basically, Janet, the soonest we can come back is 4/5, right? Or April 5th. Is there a possibility that with metrics and everything that we may not even have to do this plan before the end of the year?
That's a really good question. The only way we would not do hybrid, because there's been a very big push by some community for hybrid, I would say, is if our numbers go up, and we don't want that. So.
If you choose to pull kiddos out and do homeschool for the rest of the year, does that impact coming back to Bonny Slope in the fall?
Well, you would have to re-enroll, but we're not going to turn any child away that should be coming to Bonny Slope ever.
Let's see, will we make a choice again for the next school year if hybrid and CDL are both still available?
Oh, see, I was just hoping that it was going to be all gone by fall. I don't know.
We can hope.
I think it's my understanding at this point in time that you are making the decision for your child from April, May, and June. That's it. So what happens for next year, if you have to make a choice, that would be something that will come out later. But your choice right now is just for April, May, and June. That's my understanding.
Yeah, are there any kind of guidelines where a hybrid child may end up, like, for example, could a Bonny Slope child potentially end up across Beaverton? Or would they try to consolidate local schools that are closer together?
Well, we don't have the money to send people clear across the district in a bus just for fun. So I don't think that we're going to be doing that. And again, this is what I'll say. I'll say this over and over again. We are going to do everything possible to keep children with their teachers and the children in the school. If it doesn't work out, my best guess is it will be a school that's not far from here. Right?
Nothing that I've seen from the district mentioned a possibility of changing schools. I'm wondering why, as this seems like a pretty big deal.
If you look at the FAQ and you look at the video, there is a quick mention that there's always this possibility, but that the district will do everything they can to keep the child with the teacher and in the school. But as you can see with staffing, it really has to do everything to do with staffing.
It seems like the best way to assure our children keep their current teacher would be to start some sort of parent group chat and email to gauge where parents of classmates are leaning. What's best for some kids would be to stay with the current teacher. So rather than picking CDL versus hybrid, it's go with whatever option is most the class is going towards. Is there a way that BSE can help facilitate for those who don't know where the direction is? And
Yeah,
no worries about your typos.
and just so you know that would not be a decision that would necessarily swing in everybody's way. So they're asking parents to make the choice that's best for their child. And I understand that the teacher is the number one choice, but no matter what, if your child cannot sit for 2 hours and 15 minutes in a classroom, but you feel like your hand is forced to because the class has decided, oh, we're going to swing one way, that isn't what's best for the child. And so yeah, the looking at the numbers and that kind of thing and seeing if it will move a teacher one way or another. Remember, it's also the strengths and the gifts of the teacher that will also be considered in whether or not they're teaching in person or not. But like Jim and we are really good at scenarios and like playing the numbers game. But in this case, it really is not something that will swing one way or another. Just because we really believe that parents need to make that decision about what's best for their child, and we don't want any parent to feel like maybe they feel like it's unsafe, or especially for their family, it may be unsafe to have a child coming into the classroom and to feel like that's their only option because they're feeling pressure to meet the numbers. We don't want that in our community.
So could you clarify again, is there a chance that students may change schools in hybrid?
It's my understanding that that's a possibility.
You mentioned learning squares or movement squares. Will the kids have a chance to get up and move around? Or are they expected to sit for 2.5 hours, specifically asking for my kindergartner?
Yeah, 2 hours and 15 minutes. And there will be stretch breaks and any like, oh, help me out, Jim. My brain's starting to get squishy. What's the online
brain breaks?
like, yeah, brain
Oh,
break
go noodle?
or go noodle, but it will be in their square. It will not be like spread out and everybody, no, they'll be in their square. So they will get stand up stretch breaks, but it will be in their 6 foot by 6 foot square.
Let's see. So will they split up siblings in different schools? Is that a possibility?
I really, I won't know anything until the numbers. I'll tell you what though, I will make a promise to you. I will do everything I can to keep every child at Bonny Slope where it's possible. We will definitely, no matter what, do everything we can to keep them at Bonny Slope.
And Taylor?
Me again.
Yeah.
Looking at timing for this first cohort of kindergarten to second. So we make our decisions on the 15th. And we know the earliest to trigger is April 5th, but there's a lot depending on that. But at what point would these teacher and classroom assignments be communicated to families?
That's a really good question. I have no idea. It will come from HR on my end. It will come from HR. It'll be just like when we start school. They'll say, I'll be running 2 schools. You will have this many students and this number of teachers, and you will have this number of students and this number of teachers. and the start date will be April 5th. But I don't know when I'll get that information.
Okay.
I really don't. Or I would tell you. I don't have.
That's it for our written questions.
Wow, we have 4 minutes to spare. I do want to say thank you so much for taking the time to learn about what's going to happen on April 5th so that you can make the best decision. I would encourage you to attend the February 10th. You'll get some information about the Q&A, and that's a few days from now, so you might learn a whole bunch of things that are new. So, all right. Well, I wish you all the best. Stay healthy and take care, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you, everyone.
Mhm.